Thanos needed everything. All 6 Infinity Stones, a planet-crushing army, and a long game measured in years just to snap away half the universe. Now imagine a guy showing up who needs none of that. No stones, no gauntlet, no cosmic cheat code, and still ends Thanos with a single, casual movement. Spine out, body to dust. That's the scale we're talking about. Robert Downey Jr. is back, but not as the savior we grew up with. This time, the face on screen belongs to Dr. Doom, a man who doesn't want to protect the Marvel Universe, he wants to own it. A lot of people cope by calling him a Tony Stark variant. Others shrug him off as just another armored villain. Both takes miss the point. Doom isn't a costume, he's a void with a crown waiting for it. And today, we're going straight into that darkness, how strong he is, why he's built different, and why he might be the most complicated, most venomous, most unstoppable force Marvel has ever put on the board. What's up? Lord of Leaks here. Tap like to support, and yeah, my final verdict is coming at the end. Let's start where Doom really begins, not with power, but with hate. Victor was born in Latveria, tucked in Eastern Europe, raised inside a nomadic community that never got the safety it deserved. His mother, Cynthia, wasn't kind of mystical. She was the real deal, a sorceress with enough force to scare the world and enough desperation to make the worst choice possible. To protect her people, she bargains with Mephisto and pays with her soul. Victor grows up with a simple fact burning in his skull. His mother is suffering in hellish dimensions, and nobody is coming to save her. His father is a healer, a good man in a bad country. But when the ruling cruelty closes in, he runs into frozen mountains, dragging a child behind him because there's no other option. And then comes the moment that forges Doom. The father gives Victor his cloak to keep him alive and dies from the cold. That's the origin of the vow. Victor doesn't just want to be strong. He swears he will never bow, never be powerless, never be crushed by anyone's authority again. Not kings, not gods, not reality itself. So he does what only Doom would do. He fuses worlds that aren't meant to touch. His mother's forbidden magic, his father's science and discipline. When America opens its doors to his genius, he enters a university for the gifted and meets the rival who will define his entire life, Reed Richards. Doom's pride can't even process the idea that Reed might be smarter, so when Victor builds a machine meant to reach into hell and pull his mother's soul back, and it explodes, he doesn't blame the math, he blames Reed. The scar on his face isn't just damage, it's the death of his perfection. Victor disappears, goes to Tibet, forges armor like it's a second skin, and returns with one identity left, Dr. Doom. If you want, I can do a separate video and break his whole life down deeper, but this episode is about power, so we're moving fast. After Endgame, people thought the main threat was gone. Then Marvel drops the Downey as Doom announcement, and everyone instantly understands this isn't Thanos 2.0. Doom doesn't fill a vacancy, he changes the entire job description. Here's the clean comparison. Thanos is a warlord, terrifying, brutal, physically dominant, but his peak form depends on external tools. Absolute power for Thanos means collecting artifacts, commanding armies, executing a plan, and finally grabbing a cosmic shortcut. Doom is different. Doom is the guy who looks at cosmic shortcuts and decides he'd rather rewrite the road. Yes, back in Infinity Gauntlet 1991, Thanos with the gauntlet swatted Doom aside, but that's the thing. Doom doesn't forget humiliation. He studies it, he hoards it, he turns it into a blueprint. And in Secret Wars 2015, he grabs something far nastier than stones, the power of the Beyonders, the kinds of entities that treat universes like disposable toys. That's when you get the title that says everything, God Emperor Doom. And then comes the scene that makes the entire Marvel hierarchy snap into place. Thanos steps up, without the gauntlet, tries to posture, calls him a weak god. Doom doesn't argue. Doom doesn't struggle. Doom doesn't reach for a stone. He just extends a hand and ends Thanos in one motion, ripping out the spine and watching the rest become ash. That's not just strength, that's a statement. There are levels to this, and Doom is announcing who's on top. And Doom's cruelty? It doesn't end with victory, it escalates after it. In a 2020-era storyline, he runs into a variant of himself from another universe, a calmer, better Victor, who actually turned his world into something like paradise. Most people would see that and think, so it's possible, I could have been this. Doom sees it and thinks, how dare you exist? The peaceful Doom mocks his armor, laughs in his face, and our Doom kills him on the spot. Then he reaches for Marvel's closest thing to a cosmic delete key, the ultimate nullifier. One click and that entire universe gets erased like a typo. Thanos is obsessed with death, loves her, worships her. Doom's ego is so violent, he doesn't worship death. He imagines death serving him. That's the core difference. If you still file Doom under just another villain, you're missing what makes him terrifying. He's one of the greatest scientists on Earth. Iron Man's armor is a masterpiece. Doom's armor is a nightmare of equal complexity because it's built not to protect a man, but to enforce a will. He mass-produces that will too. Doombots, an entire army of perfect decoys with AI and realism so convincing that heroes have celebrated beating Doom, only to find out they fought a machine over and over. And his genius doesn't stop at metal and code. Doom plays with biology like it's circuitry. He's crafted a saw out of adamantium, the same near-mythic metal fused to Wolverine's skeleton, and used it to perform surgery on the Hulk's brain. The goal? Separate Banner's mind from the Hulk's rage, and he actually pulled it off. He even took vibranium, Wakanda's sacred miracle metal, and forced it into becoming an energy source in a way Wakanda itself hadn't achieved. With that breakthrough, he extends control outward, all the way to Earth's magnetic field. For Doom, technology isn't the dream, technology is the leash. But the real reason Doom is so hard to stop, the thing that truly separates him from Tony Stark, is that Doom isn't just science. Doom is science fused with sorcery. Cynthia's blood is in him, and he didn't let that legacy die. He didn't only train in labs, he hunted the darkest teachers on the planet, learned from ancient magicians, and even studied under Morgan Le Fay herself, the Arthurian-era legend. He time-traveled, carried spells across centuries, and turned knowledge into a weapon. Triumph and Torment 1989 is basically the blueprint for why this matters. Doom can stand next to Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, and make it a competition, not a worship session. He pushes Strange so far that even Strange starts to fear where Doom's line actually is. And then you get modern stories like Blood Hunt 2024, where Earth is collapsing under a vampire catastrophe, and Strange makes the most uncomfortable move possible. He hands the title and power over to Doom, because in that moment, the only person strong enough and ruthless enough to save the planet is him. And once Doom holds that crown, he doesn't exactly sprint to return it. Power alone doesn't make a character iconic. Personality does. Doom is Marvel's purest hater, an ego with a pulse. In so many versions, his central sickness is Reed Richards, the need to prove publicly and painfully that he's superior. That obsession gets so twisted, it becomes psychological warfare. At one point, Susan Storm is in a deadly childbirth situation. Doom steps in, saves both mother and baby, and you think maybe there's a human under the mask. No, he did it so he could look Reed in the eye and say, "See, I'm better." Then he takes the right to name the child, not because he cares, but because he wants Reed to carry Doom's signature inside his own family forever. And he names the girl Valeria, after Doom's old love. So every time Reed says his daughter's name, he's forced to taste Doom's shadow. And Doom's scariest weapon isn't even the armor or the spells or the tech, it's his will. Marvel has Purple Man, Killgrave, a walking command prompt in human form. He talks and people obey, not because they want to, but because their brains get rewritten mid-sentence. Almost nobody can resist him. Almost. There's a moment where Killgrave tells Doom to end himself, a clean, direct order. And Doom doesn't panic. He doesn't twitch. He just stares him down and snaps that mental control like it's cheap thread. No counterspell, no gadget. Pure refusal, sheer violent certainty. But the nastiest proof of Doom's will comes from something even bigger than mind control: judgment. In one story, Doom is confronted by Bast, the Panther God, Wakanda's divine guardian and the source behind Black Panther's power. Bast isn't impressed by speeches. Bast looks straight into you, and if there's even a trace of doubt, even a microscopic lie, you don't get a second chance, you get erased. Doom opens his soul completely and says without blinking, "Humanity's only salvation is my rule." And Bast lets him pass, not because Bast likes him, but because Doom is telling the truth as far as Doom is concerned. He believes it with a sincerity so absolute, it forces even a god to acknowledge it. That's Doom in one sentence. Not "I want to win," but "I am the answer." And that's why Latveria doesn't just fear him, it worships him. Because under Doom, there's order, no hunger, no street crime, no chaos. There is only Doom. So what is he, really? Just a dictator with a castle and a superiority complex? Secret Wars 2015 makes that question uncomfortable because it shows something worse. Doom might be the reason reality kept breathing at all. When incursions started, universes colliding and collapsing like doomed galaxies in a blender, the Avengers couldn't stop the ending. Everyone had plans, nobody had solutions. Doom did what Doom always does. He stole godhood. He took the power of the Beyonders and did the unthinkable. He prevented total annihilation by replacing it with something else, a patchwork world stitched together from the leftover scraps of dead realities, Battle World. And there, on that throne, he becomes God Emperor Doom. If Secret Wars hits the screen the way it's clearly being positioned, this is the skeleton. Multiverse collapse, incursions, and Doom building a new world out of ruins. That's the heart of it. And here's the twist that makes him such a top-tier antagonist. He didn't do it only for ego. He did it so something would survive, even if that something lived under a monster's hand. Existence continues at a price, which is exactly why Doom is so hard to reduce to bad guy. Now connect that to Robert Downey Jr. and the MCU's big question. Is he a Tony variant, or is he Victor Von Doom wearing a familiar face? Here's a clean key that comic history already planted: mind transfer. Early Fantastic Four stories establish that Doom can move his consciousness into another body. Reed has done body swaps too. So the darkest, simplest possibility is this: it's not Tony became Doom, it's Doom using Tony's body like a disguise, a shield, a psychological nuke. The face that used to save the world returns not to inspire it, but to make it kneel. That's tragedy on a meta level, and Marvel knows it. Thanos fought for an ideology, twisted but coherent, balance, sacrifice, a math problem with genocide as the solution. Doom doesn't need a philosophy to justify himself. He wants the top because he believes the top is his birthright. So tell me, does Doom hit harder than Thanos? I think Marvel is going to spin this character across multiple films, even beyond death, because the MCU knows the uncomfortable truth. RDJ is gravity, and if the MCU wants the room to feel heavy again, Doom is how they do it. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you felt the work that went into this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.